Hello, parents. I would like to show you guys a video for how I go about solving word problems. I think this is something that might help you guys when you're working with your child at home. To do this, I've taken the actual word problem from one of our books. This is something that the book thinks is a great word problem for second graders to solve. I think you'll agree with me that there's a lot in here that's really tricky. Here it is. You have 26 library books. You return some books, then you take out 15 more books. Now you have 27 books. How many books did you return? First off, I think this is a really hard word problem to keep track of. And this is one of the reasons why I'm making this video today, because I think that there's a great strategy for doing this that's going to help you whenever you have hard word problems like this. I want you guys to remember, we don't learn strategies to solve easy problems. We learn strategies so that we don't get frustrated and we know what to try when we have a difficult problem like this. Where I want you to start, I'm going to keep a second piece of paper here where I kind of write down what I'm doing. Start with a bar diagram. And I'm going to talk about this in a minute, but first, I just want to leave you guys with a tip. Here's a tip. Use the question to help. And I'll show you why that's important. Also, one other thing, since I'm talking to you as parents, I'm only going to start over on this side of the page. There is a reason for that. So I'm going to start just by drawing a bar diagram. By now, your child should be able to tell you that this bar diagram is this is the whole and these are the parts. The reason that a bar diagram is important is it helps me figure out whether I'm going to be adding or subtracting. You see, adding is taking two parts and putting them together to make a whole. Subtracting is taking a whole, starting with a whole and taking a part away to get the other part. We're looking to see what information we're missing in order to decide if we add or subtract. So I'm going to start off, I'm going to use the question, how many books did I return? All right, books returned is going to be a part. This, by the way, is why it's important that I start with labeling my bar diagram. I'm not working with numbers here. I'm trying to figure out if things are parts or wholes, and I can only do that if I'm thinking about what it means. Books returned is obviously part of what I'm going to be talking about because these are the books kept. That's how I'm going to figure out what makes the whole. If I figure out the parts, I can figure out the whole. If I figure out the whole, I can start figuring out the parts. This is going to be books I started with not because I stood up here and figured it out, because I looked over here and I saw I was talking about books returned and books kept going together to make a whole. That can't be the books I have now because that also has more books. So that's not what the whole I'm talking about is. I'm talking about books that I started with. This is where I do my reasoning. And it's why the bar diagram is so helpful. Let me show you another reason why the bar diagram is so helpful right now. I'm going to start finally, now that I've got it labeled, putting in my numbers. Well, I know this is the question. This is what I'm being asked to solve. So I know I'm going to put a question mark there, no problem. How many books did I keep? I don't know. That's going to be a question mark too. I'm going to return to this question mark in a minute to talk about it because it's actually really important. How many books did I start with? Well, I start with 26 library books. That one I can just plug in, no problem. But you see, there's an extra question mark here. Normally I would do whole minus part equals part, but I can't do that because I've got this one. You see, one of the things that makes this really tricky is it's a two-step problem. And I just figured it out. How do I know it's a two-step problem? Because I figured out there's a hidden question. You see, there's the question that the problem asks me right here. And there's a hidden question that I have to solve first to get this. What I just did was figure out that it's a two-step problem. I have not solved it, but this is why the bar diagram is so helpful. First off, is I pretty much know I'm going to do subtraction already because I have a whole and I know I'm going to figure out a part and then try and get the other part. So I've got my operator. I've already reasoned what it is that I'm talking about, which was really hard, especially with an example that looks like this. And I figured out it's a two-step problem. What I have to do now is kind of the hard part. Remember how I told you I was only going to use this side of the paper? There's a reason. I have to figure out the hidden question. This is my planning work. Now I actually have to do my solution work. For solving it, step one is figuring out the hidden question. Or solve the hidden question, really. That's what I should have written. Well, books kept. That's what I'm going to need to solve. Books kept. How many books did I keep? Let's see. I had 26. I returned some books. I took out 15 more books. Now I have 27 books. Books kept is going to be a part of this 27. So I'm going to make that, again, a part. What part of this 27 is it going to be? It's going to be the other part from the books that I took out. More taken out. And the whole is going to be 27 books I have now. Books I have now. And I know that's 27, so I'm just going to plug that in right now. And I know this is the question because I already figured that out. In fact, the whole reason I'm doing step one here is to figure out the hidden question. Here it is, the hidden question. So I know that's my question. This is where I figure out if it's a two-step problem or three-step problem. Really, so if I know how many books it's taken out, it's a two-step problem. If I have to figure more things out, I need another step. Then you take out 15 more books. Oh, this one's going to be easy now. I can do the whole minus a part equals a part. 27 minus 15 equals question mark. And I'm going to do that the way that I teach second graders to do it. Write it vertically. Start with the ones column and just subtract the ones. 7 ones minus 5 ones equals 2 ones. There's no regrouping involved here. Everything's lined up. 2 tens minus 1 10 equals 1 10. So there's going to be 12 books kept. This is important because I'm now going to plug it in there to answer that hidden question. You see, I started here with the planning to figure out what I had to do in step one, but now I go back to this because along with planning, this is also step two. This 12 books gets plugged right in because those are the books that are kept. Whole minus a part equals a part. 26 minus 12. Again, everything's lined up, vertically written. 6 ones minus 2 ones equals 4 ones. 2 tens minus 1 10 equals 1 10. That means that the answer to this, the question, is right here. 14 books returned. I wanted to show you my entire problem-solving process, from reading to planning, where I use a bar diagram, and I just started with the labels. And I even wanted to show you where I start with the labels, how I started just by figuring out if the question was a whole or a part. Because in a question like this, figuring out what this bar diagram is itself really hard. I knew the books returned was a part. So I figured out what the other parts was. Well, I returned some, then I must have kept some. And then if I'm talking about the books I returned and the books I kept, I must be talking about the books that I had. I didn't talk about the books I took out and the books I have now. These labels are going to be really important because it tells me what I'm really talking about. And it tells me what I'm talking about, especially here when I go back and do step 2 of the problem. It helps me keep track of everything. In your book or in your child's book, what you're going to see sometimes is it's just going to give you and it's going to say this is a 2-step problem. It wants you to write it out like this. Here's what they want you to write. 27 minus 15 equals 12 is step 1. And step 2 over here, 26 minus 12 equals 14. This 12 is, of course, the same 12. That's what we figured out in step one, books kept. I know this is a lot, and I know that these are tricky problems. They want you and your child to learn how to solve them, and I'm just trying to give you a strategy. I know this isn't something that you or I, for that matter, learned in school. We did not learn how to do problems this way, but I'm hoping that I show you that this is a good way to solve them because it will help your child not get confused while solving them. I hope this helps you while you're working with your child at home. Have a good day. Goodbye.